Hey, happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to Draglist Live, where we bench race with the world's top drag racers. My name's Bill Pratt. I'm thrilled to be with you tonight because tonight we bring back Johnny West, one of the true legends of Nitro racing. Over the years, Johnny's strapped into some of the wildest machines on the planet, including fuel altereds, funny cars, top fuel cars, heck, even an alcohol funny car now and then. So Johnny's over there in London tonight having just worked for their world finals. So I can't wait to talk about that with him and many, many other things. Before we bring Johnny in, let's go to JB. John, how are you doing?
I'm doing great here, Bill, and howdy from Houston, everybody. Please join us on the live chat. I'll take notes and I'll pass your questions and comments along to Bill and Johnny.
All right, thanks, John. And folks, click the like, the little thumbs up down there, click the share, let your friends know we have Johnny West live. And to prove it, let's bring him in. Johnny West, welcome to the show.
I'm glad to be here. It's just middle of the night for us here in London, but I can't wait to do this. This is a great thing to be able to do.
It's so amazing that you stayed up late because it's 1 in the morning there. So Johnny's putting in the hours for us guys. But you were on the show last on February 3rd, 2020. I just
Mhm.
looked it up. So 5 years have gone by, having a you're living your best life, running the Plan A fuel altered. Tell us how it's been going.
Well, the Alternate itself is just a dominant car. It races in that six flat class, 6.0 breakout. Uh, you know, and there's probably 12, 14 cars out on the West Coast and, like in Washington, but their main thing is to be able to run whatever we can. You can run whatever motor combination you want. You just can't go quicker than six flat. And this car,
Mhm.
just for some reason, it just loves running six flat at like 250 miles an hour. It's a high gear car. It's just like a big show car, only downscaled. And it's just it's a fun ride to have. My partner and I run the car with our two wives, and that's just basically all we ever do. And it's just such a kick to run. You can't beat the thrill of it again. It took me a
Right.
while to get reacclimated into driving, but it got there eventually.
Right. Well, of course, you've run, when you were in the big show, and we'll talk about that a little bit, but you run in Hawaiian at one particular year, the quickest DT all year long, certainly until I think Bernstein nipped you with a 555 at the very end of the year at some IHRA event. But you run a 558 at the winners and just nobody could touch you. And but you're sort of not quite 550s, but sort of right there again. Well, what's it feel like to jump back in?
Well, it's a whole different atmosphere or a whole different feeling syndrome for me because your head's out there in the wind, so it's a different thing. With that fiberglass body, it feels so much safer. Yeah,
Right.
you just the altar is just such a kick to run, and with my wife being on the outside all the time, it's a perfect scenario for us to be able to go out and really enjoy racing again.
Well, that's great. And I know she's there tonight with you. Say hello to her and hope you guys are enjoying London. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing. I know you're over there for the finals for the European series. Tell us how that went.
Well, they take in, there's like here in England, I think there's six funny cars that pretty much race all the time around here, and they have a couple more from around the country, but there's only six that were actually entered. So it made it for a shortcut show, but there's still the competition there. These racers, they're just as driven as we are in the United States. It's hard for them to get all the same type of equipment and be
Right.
able to spend that kind of money on the car. Everything they buy, it's almost 100% duty by the time they get it here. So
Wow.
it's they're really at a disadvantage, see, and you got to learn to work with the best because there's no such thing as, well, let's overnight it from, LA and get this to the races here. It just doesn't happen that way because it's got to go through customs first.
Right.
And the cost of it's just way forbidden.
Right. Just got to massage it as best you can, like the olden
Yeah.
days in the States.
Yeah. You just learn to work with what you have.
That's great. Well, how does I know that we were chatting a little bit before the show. You said the tune-ups over there, about 10 years old, and you had to kind of reacclimate yourself to help these guys. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's just that the blowers are a little bit dated. Fuel systems, they don't have the common day computers or the data loggers. So you're running this car a lot by the seat of your pants over what the parts look like. We went out and started making some 300-foot shots a month or so ago, just to kind of see what the car was going to give us. But at best, it's a 420 type of a combination here at the racetrack, and that's about as much as you want to push these cars. Otherwise,
Mhm.
you're just going to run yourself out of parts before the end of the
Right.
week.
Well, that's great. Well, I've never been to Santa Pod. I've been lucky enough to go to Australia, and that was wonderful. But one of these days, it's on my bucket list to get over to the pod, and because they really have a great deal of support, don't they, for that racetrack?
The track itself was just phenomenal. You only get the opportunity to race on a surface that was this smooth, this clean. But what I noticed more than anything is they had grandstands on, say, like the left-hand side of the track. They had grandstands that were up about as high as your normal set in the States, but they only went to 300 foot. But then on the right-hand side, they had like this hill, a grass hill where people could sit all the way down the track. And come Saturday afternoon for the race and Sunday, you could not see one patch of grass at all.
Wow.
The crowd was just phenomenal, and they were there for the drag races. They weren't there for any other dog and pony show. They were there to see fuel cars. I could not believe how many people showed up for this event.
That's amazing. I'm so glad to hear that. We'll get over there soon. But well,
It
really
kind of
great.
reminds you of the Brainerd race where you have the camping ground.
Right.
These it just all everywhere, just everywhere. There was tents put up for people to camp, and they were there, and you didn't see them partying all night. They were there to watch the race, but they were
Wow.
there camping out so they wouldn't have to try and drive in and out. But you
I
got to
love it.
give these people credit. They were here knowing that the weather could be bad, and they
Mhm.
didn't care. They came in and drove.
I love it. Yeah, it's great watching the old 70. Every now and then you find a little video clip of a 70s event, and when, Beal would go over there, Garlitz would go over there, and Gene Snow a lot. And of course, towards the 90s, Tom Hoover basically
Yeah.
lived in the UK for half the season, it seemed. So it's really great to have you continue that on and go over there. Were there any other Americans over there kind of helping the tune or this time around?
No, no, not really. Terry Hattie, what used to come over, and he was driving the Showtime funny car, but he decided to stay stateside and go to Columbus this weekend.
Right.
So, you know, it's
Well, we got
almost like a
another
case
option
of,
here.
yeah, you got too many races to go to. So,
Yeah,
yeah, we were pretty much by ourselves. And that's another challenge in itself too, is to be able to talk to somebody to relate what's going on with the race car. But,
right.
we got to figure it out.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So Santa Pod is, what do you think, about an hour or two north of London? I'm not quite sure. Uh,
It it takes about 2 hours from the airport here in Heathrow to get there.
gotcha. That's about what I thought. So we'll get over. I'm planning my future trip through you. Thank you, Johnny.
It's a country that I think everybody needs to do this kind of traveling. At least luckily we were fortunate enough for these guys to ask us to come over and give us a hand. That way, it helped give us a reason to come to London. But
Right.
it's just a different world. Everybody needs to be able to see it and see what's going on.
You do. You can't. Yeah, you got to go. I was lucky enough to be in the Navy in the late 70s, early 80s, and I was all over Europe, all over the northern Africa and the Middle East. I was just blessed. Of course, I had to float around in an aircraft carrier with planes landing out of my head day and night, but it was worth it. It's what every young person should do, is a little bit of that, I
Should
think.
do, yeah.
Well, so great. Well, tell us since you we were talking a little bit before the show. We're going back to the fuel altered now, if you don't mind. I'm really fascinated, by the way you put that together. You're known as one of the guys who really did the most with the least over the years. With your unique fuel setup, which we can talk about a little bit. But tell us about the motor in the fuel altered. It's about a 440 cubic inches, you were telling me, and tell us about how you got that stroker work, and it's just fascinating.
Yeah, well, it's something that actually the engineers at Cadillac had come up with on how to get the most torque out of an engine. And then, any kind of propellant that we use, any kind of a fuel that we use, if you can come up with a 7-to-1 rod ratio over the crank, that's going to be the most torque output you can build, no matter what RPM range you're in. So we started working it out. I could buy the blocks and the cylinder heads from all the big show guys there in Indianapolis, and that's readily available. So what I did is that I ended up going to Schumacher's shop and I picked out pistons with the right compression height and then worked it out to where I could get the 7-to-1 rod ratio with a D-stroke crank from Ohio Crank. So
Hmm.
and then we're putting that all together, and this thing just took off from the very beginning. It's high gear only car. It's just exactly like the big show cars. We run a little bit of a lockup system in it with a cannon and a reverser, and it just took off and it just flies. It's just so much fun to drive. When you're racing the other two-speed cars, they get out on you. Uh, Probably 300-400 foot. You can see them out there in front by three or four cars, and you think, "Well, this is they got me, and I'll never catch them." And then all of a sudden, their car would just slow down. They'd run out of poop, and ours
Yeah.
would take off and pass them by half track, and it was all over.
Baby locks up and away you go, huh?
You got it. Yeah, that's just it. When it locked up, it gets into that secondary range. It's a handful, because we don't have any wing on the car. Just
Oh,
because I
really?
just didn't want. Yeah, it's got a wing on the back, but nothing on the front. I
Okay.
wanted to make it look like a true fuel altered, and it's a lot of fun to drive. It keeps you honest now.
It's beautiful. And I have to tell you, and I hope he's listening. I think I saw him sign up, but Jeff Thomas, our old friend and the creator of 70sfunnycars.com, he put up a beautiful picture of the Plan A on Facebook today on all of the groups, the 6.0 group, the fuel altered group. So if you haven't seen that yet, it's looking good. So, we shared there, hey, Johnny's going to be on. So if you get a chance, listen in. But thanks to Jeff and a shout out to Jeff, one of our old partners. But man, it does look good. It looks legit. There was I know we've always did the Transformer years where you swap the bodies a
Yeah.
bit, but and sometimes they looked a little too swoopy, but your card looks legit, looks like the real deal.
That was the whole deal with Dave Huff out in Vegas, with the Nanook car.
Uh-huh.
He's the one that we actually went to first and asked, well, what's going to be the best way to help progress the fuel altered category and get it going out here? And even though it's not, yeah, I guess in Bowling Green, they still are going to be using us in some of the Legend series or for the nostalgia funny cars.
Right.
And they still want to have fuel alters back there. If we could get more for the Midwest, then it would be something worthwhile for us to look into
Yeah.
and take the car back there.
Yeah, you bet. Well, in the olden days when you guys and you and your brother were racing and when there was, you have the Tucson events and stuff, there's a couple of those guys from Ohio the Grutchko brothers and others who would come out there and do some good stuff with
Yeah.
you. But
Oh yeah. Well, hopefully I guess Chris Graves is going to try and have some kind of a chaos fuel altered race down in Tucson later this year, like in November. Bad timing. It's kind of touchy weather, but at least he's trying to do something with the fuel
right.
altereds. It'll be for eighth mile racing, but this will be interesting. It's just going to be fuel altereds only.
Oh,
So
I
it'll
love
be,
it.
yeah, that could, but Tucson's really a good demographic market to
Yeah.
have it come back to them. But there's, the residents there, they don't know what they used to have back there with the old
Yeah.
drag strip. But if they can
We
get
have
that,
friends there who've moved there, keep bugging us to come out. So man, I might even be able to talk my wife into a flight to Tucson. We'll have to keep an eye on that.
yeah, he's got like 30 or 40 cars already pre-entered for this race.
Wow.
And we're making some changes in our car because it's set up for quarter mile. So to be
Yeah.
able to race eighth mile, I'm going to make some changes in there and see if I can't help pick up my early times.
Yeah, that lockup won't help you if the track runs out.
Yeah. By the time I get to half track is when it starts coming in. So I
Yeah.
need to do something earlier.
Oh my goodness. Well, Johnny, can we go to John and take a couple questions and comments from the gang out there? Let's see
You
what
bet.
folks have to say. John, who's out there?
Well, we're still showing up, but we're coast to coast right now. We have Randy Johnston in Northern California, Doug Polly in Maryland. He's the Nostalgia Pro Stock Racing guy, and Pete Mariello in Los Angeles is with us. Rich Panicaro in New Jersey. Macon Jackson in Utah. Jack Red is with us. He says, I don't know what I did, but I'm back on. Miracles do happen.
Yeah. We
And
had to get
yeah,
Jack a new email address.
yeah, y'all were talking about the race over there in at Santa Pod, and Randy Johnston said it's a great race this weekend, and he said Blake Bowser at Famoso came up with the 6.0 index for fuel altereds. Fun, but not scattering parts. Seat of the pants, he says that's why they are so cool. Real gut level racing with no electronics. And Doug Polly said he's going to quote Jungle Jim and say drag racing is far out. And Rob McCabe said Texas has the fuel altereds, and there's a special fuel altered chaos race coming up in November.
Yeah. Johnny was just saying that.
Oh, okay. I wasn't paying attention. I'm sorry. And Macon said, he said, I've watched Johnny since I was a kid. I had the opportunity to work on a Nitro funny car, and Johnny was the crew chief. He said, I would never imagine that I would have had the opportunity to work under him. And he said, thank you, Johnny. Say hi to the wife for me.
Thanks, Macon.
And Kay Thurkelson in Salt Lake City showed up, and she says, good evening, everybody. And at the moment, we are caught up, gents.
Sounds great. Thank you, John. Welcome everybody, and get some questions going. We're ready. We got him pinned down here. He can't go nowhere. We got him in a hotel room, I think. So
Yeah. Having a
so
glass of wine at midnight.
that's what I'm talking about. I'm doing this, but I'm going to, let's see. I'm going to train when we're off the air. So I'll upgrade to the wine. John, when you were on the last time, everybody's knows the famous Plan A name. You explained what that was all about, but can you repeat that for us, the story? Because for anybody who was on who didn't catch our show 5 years ago, and I was mistaken about it for decades until you explained it to me. So, if you don't mind, can you kind of tell us where Plan A came from?
It evolved between my brother and I. We were both trying to go fuel car racing. He wanted to put together a funny car thing. I wanted to put together a fuel altered, just because the fact that a fuel altered inside your two-car garage is a lot easier to work around with the body being so small.
Right.
And so we shopped around. We were just back then. It was a situation where we were going to have to buy a car from somebody. Well, I found the fuel altered out in California, close to the LA area, and it was an altered car. So I thought, well, he wanted a funny car. I wanted an altered. And actually, we ended up racing a dragster for a little bit first, too. But we never really had a name on the dragster. The altered was something that I wanted to have. That was my original plan. So I figured Plan A fits, and that's just the way it's going to be. And we just took off from there.
Sounds great. Like a Plan C, Plan B was the funny car, and Plan C was the top fueler. Was that the plan?
Well, yeah, that was for my brother, and we were kind of partners, and then we just broke off and said, well, we want to drive our own car. So he found a funny car to buy, and it wasn't even a half a year later. He bought the funny car, and we took off. I was switching back and forth with the altered car. Back then I could switch bodies pretty easy, just depending on how we wanted to make the money.
Right.
With Dave Huff out of California organizing the altered deal, we probably had 10 or 12 races a year just out on the West Coast area.
Yeah, that's amazing. And Dave Huff, what a great guy, the famous Nanook racer. And just a super guy. Was proud to know him. And of course,
Well, he was the one that always kept everybody together. Him and Lynn, they were the masters of it, and whatever they said, that's how we did it. There was no arguing or no debate. This is the way it's going to be, people. And that's how they raced.
I hate to say it, that's kind of how you have to run. I did some promoting myself in the early 2000s for nostalgia, and oh my gosh, you can't do it by committee because everybody just wants to do whatever their
Uh,
combination is, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
And we had 8 car shows very consistently. And if you faltered on any one of them or said I couldn't show up, then you went to the bottom of the list and somebody else took that 8th spot. So,
Yeah,
if they wanted you to show up in Seattle, Washington from Phoenix at a one night show, you couldn't say, well, that's too far for me to travel. I think I'll skip that race. Then you went to the bottom of the list. So
yeah.
they kept you honest.
That's a challenge, especially for you guys. I'm so spoiled here in the Midwest. I'm in the Mid-Atlantic rather. I can go to English, well, not anymore. I can go to Epping, for instance, or I can go down to Palm Beach, and everywhere in between. But between you guys, you have to drive that far, just go from one track to another sometimes, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be good for us to base, if we were to do something with the altered in the future, it'd be good just to base out of Indy, or even, Scott Palmer's even offered to give us room in his shop to base the car out of, and then we fly in and out of there.
Yeah.
So there's options to take. It's just we got to do it.
Yeah. Well, talking about your brother, let's give a shout out to Jimmy West and the Wild Wild West fuel Monza with a pure Chevy in it. You guys ran. He was great, and of course the what was it? Tramp Land and Cattle car. The Mr. Tramp had a little bit of money, and you guys put a top fueler out there. Ran really good at the winners one year.
Yeah. Well, with the Chevrolet in it, it was always to half track this thing was an animal, but we just never could get it to the end of the track without it murdering itself.
Uh,
But that was a fun car to run, And back then we had the whole funny car combination in the drivetrain. A lot of the dragsters back then were still running a pedal clutch. And we
right.
said, you know what, we're going to run the Crower Glide in this thing. And actually, Jerry Ruth was the one who made the step up into dragsters with a glide. So we thought, well, let's do it too. And boy,
Mhm.
the thing was a lot of fun to run.
I love it. Well, speaking of fun, so have you raised everything from you're running it now? Like I said, I think living your best life, just enjoying life. And you ran the, kind of local fuel circuits and jumped in an alcohol funny car now and then. For Bill Benson, the old Calliope car, I know you at least one time drove that, but at least that's what I've got recorded. I don't personally remember it because, we're all getting up there, at least me. But what was, and of course, then the big show years where you were like one of the top NHRA racers for Roland Leong and Hawaiian. Tell us, what was your sort of favorite time in racing? There's probably no bad time in racing, but what stands out as some of your career highlights that you really enjoyed?
Well, a lot of the times we'd race that car, it seemed like the thing really shined when it was going into hot weather.
Hmm.
That's where this car, the 3 years that I drove for Roland, that's where we had a lot of good experiences, was racing that thing when it was hot out, especially at a nighttime race. That but all the racetracks, they all seem to bleed into each other. Outside of Englishtown, I got to really say, even though I've had some bad experiences there, that was probably my most favorite track to go to of all the times.
Well, I know there's one event, late 80s, I think. You ran about the quickest anybody had until that point. This is back when you were running 530s at 270. I think it was quicker than you'd had on the actual tour that year, but they brought those fuel shows in and on a nice warm night there in Englishtown, and there was some pretty amazing competition there.
Yeah, and Vinny Knapp, they would bring in 8, 10 cars just for that, maybe a couple of jet cars. But we'd start the show. First round started at 5 o'clock, and at 10 o'clock we had to be out of the track.
Right.
That's how quick they ran the whole thing. There was no messing around. They ran the whole thing just that quick, oil downs and everything. If there was an oil down, they figured out a way of getting it cleaned and not having a bunch of downtime.
They were great. Yeah, I do. But the thing is, and people, we all regret that Englishtown went away, but people don't really realize. I mean, you're driving to that thing. You're going through this tiny little town, Old Bridge Township, right? And then you're going through past these mansions, which are less than a mile from the track. I mean, people have built these gorgeous homes. I mean, really nice homes, and I'm like, that chaos for them must have been just amazing. They put the big wall up to try to get rid of some of the sound, but I'll bet
It
those
didn't help.
realtors weren't telling those people about the racetrack when they were buying those mansions.
But it didn't take them long to figure it out. But I don't
Yeah.
think that's really why they closed the place. They'd been offered something, a good contract to turn the thing into like a giant parking lot or something like that.
Yeah,
But
Coparts, right.
everything is still there, but the property is still there, not getting used. So
Hmm.
it's just a shame. Another one of the premier racetracks that we really look forward to going to. That was 3 or 4 times a year,
Right,
with the national event and then Saturday night races, Wednesday night. There was a lot of Wednesday night races there at Englishtown. How could you not want to do that again? And
right,
it's just unbelievable how much fun that was driving from Epping or Adco and
right,
or Maple Grove. You'd race all three of those tracks on one week. The Friday night in Epping and go to Adco and then come back to Englishtown Wednesday and then go to Maple Grove on Saturday night. And it was a
right.
little bit of traveling, but it was worth it.
Yeah, and you're always near the top. It was great. And this the what do you still maintain? So I know you certainly do on with the fuel altered guys. Do you still maintain a lot of your compadres there from the big show days? Do you still see them at Indy and places like that?
Well, it's kind of turned into a grueling exercise going to the national events anymore. You hardly get out of your own camp just because there's so much work to do.
Right,
Last year we worked with Cruise and that group all year, and that's just you're stuck there in that camp. Just so many
right.
problems keep coming up, and you're there from 10 or 11 or 10 or 9 in the morning till 7 or 8 at night. And when you're done with the day, you're done and ready to go back to the
Yeah.
hotel.
Yeah. So you're still helping some of the big show guys then these days. Is that the case?
Well, there's a car out of Phoenix. I've kind of backed off on helping Cruz from last year. I told him it's just going to be a 1 year thing. My wife and I both worked with him with the whole group over there. But now there's a funny car. It's called the Nitro Moose out of the
Okay.
Phoenix
Yeah.
area with this Dylan Winifsky. They
Right.
they were actually fuel altered guys, and he crashed his car in Tucson during a test session. And so they bought a chassis from John Force and then a Camaro body from Jim Dunn
Okay.
out on the coast. And they're putting together this funny car. It's got every bit of pieces that caps and all the Toyota cars, Schumacher cars. They've got all the same equipment, just only one of everything.
Right.
It's a legitimate funny car. The kid's doing pretty good. He's gone to 3 national events now and qualified at all three. Planning on going to maybe Dallas for the
Right.
national event, but for sure go to Vegas again. Just got done with the Seattle race up there during that swing, just because I wanted to do a little traveling, go up there to the Northwest and see what it's like. But
Hmm.
the whole group, you love helping people like that because their
Right.
heart's in the right place. They're not thinking, well, oh yeah, we can get these major sponsors if we
Yeah.
bring the car out. They're still trying to market it, but they're racing out of their own back pocket.
Wow. We've had Dylan on the show, a great young man, and with a good future ahead of him. I'm really glad they have you there to help mentor them to do this thing right, because you can go crazy spending money in the wrong direction if you don't have someone setting up a solid baseline, can't you?
Yeah, the dad, uh, Rob, he's got his mindset in the right place. He knows what it takes. It's just it isn't. There's no way they're going to end up with a tractor trailer rig. That just gets way out of control as far as
Right.
expense. So we work out of a small gooseneck trailer, and he's
Right.
got a little tag along trailer that they take. It's comfortable. It works
Yeah.
out just right, and it's actually kind of fun to do that again.
That's great. Yeah. That was the big show setup there back in the 70s, wasn't it? Into the 80s until Billy Meyer showed up, I think, with the first big rig,
Trucking, yeah.
about 76 or so. Oh my goodness, good stuff. Well, that's great. That's great to hear. Let's check in with John again and see if anybody's out there with any new thoughts. John, what's going on out there, sir?
Yes, it's very busy on the chat board tonight. I'll just run it all down to you.
All right.
Rob McCabe says, I'm looking up the records in the database for Johnny and his cars that he's driven and tuned. He says, I remember Paula Martin in 91, Chuck Etchells at Seattle in 92, and Jim Epler as well in 92. Randy Johnston asked, what percentage of Nitro are y'all running right now, Johnny?
We run 88%. I've run a couple of times in the low 90s, and I just didn't like the motor, like the way the engine responded to it. So it's 88, 89%. It's just with
Okay.
a single mag, but boy, the
Hmm.
car, you just love the way the car idles. It just sounds like a big show car. Some of the
Right.
guys have even made the comment, when the car's running in the pits, they can tell it's mine, and it sounds like a big show car.
I love it.
Well, Randy also asked if you're planning on running at Reading and Famoso in the next few weeks.
No, not Redding, California. But the Bakersfield race, that comes up in October. And actually, we've got a guy from Australia, Greg Leahy, who drove the car for us in Boise. He
Uh-huh.
wanted to drive the car at the Hot Rod reunion there in Bakersfield. So we're letting him take over and drive it
Wow.
just to drive that race. I actually enjoy more being on the outside, and I think I can do the car better by being on the outside. When you have a 71-year-old guy driving a fuel car, that's probably not a good choice. So it's better for me to get some of the younger blood in there.
Oh man. Is that Greg? He must be the son of the great Peter Leahy. I'm just guessing the Australian drag racer, but a great family. I assume so, but perhaps not. But that's great to hear.
He hadn't mentioned anything about that, but it wouldn't surprise me. He's not a bad driver. He's comfortable. It didn't give me that deer in the headlight look. So he's in. I told him, okay, you can come back and run it.
That's the first step. No deer in headlight. That's what I would look like. That's great. John, who else is out there with a thought?
Well, we just got a new post here. It says, a question for Johnny. Would you like to see the big show cars slowed down and go back to a quarter mile? And the second part is, how would you slow them down?
Well, without a doubt, they really need to go back to quarter mile, but just because 1,000 foot, there's not enough time for something to happen to where the competitor can recover and win the race. If they're out on you by half track, they're pretty much going to win.
Hmm.
So, and I'm probably with the old school guys to where that's where we really want to go. NHRA is claiming that we're running out of real estate when you get a car that can run 330 miles an hour. But the
Mhm.
only reason they're running 330 is because we can run it so hard through the middle because of the fuel pumps. If
Right.
they ended up taking away all the fuel pump, you wouldn't be able to lean on it as hard and run that mile an hour to run almost 290 miles an hour at half track. If you
Right.
slowed the cars down to where the fuel systems to where they couldn't run that hard through the middle, they'd still only run 265, 270, which would be like 310 miles an hour at quarter mile. Then you'd be able to stop them, and the massive destruction would go away. If you like put a cylinder out early, if that cylinder going out, if you stay in the throttle, it's going to level the motor, and that's just too
Wow.
much of an expense to have.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah,
Well,
there have,
Randy
I
Johnson,
mean, sorry, I mean, there have actually gone 302 in the eighth now. I think I saw. And then, of course, 340 or 343.5 now with Brittany. Unbelievable. The ET's not there, but they sure are running the speed. I'm going to I'm going to piggyback on this question, but Johnny, can you kind of explain why you think that the ET isn't coming along with those booming speeds that they're generating?
Well, it is really. It's just not showing up on the scoreboard, but they're running. Before you get to half track, if they can still run 290, 295, 298, and that's it's just so much inertia going, but they can start running the cars harder through the middle to get that mile an hour, even though they got there just as quick. And then
Mhm.
the mile an hour at the finish line, that last 100 feet or so, that's what it's going to take to be able to dominate.
Right. Wow. Thank you, sir. John, back to you with the follow-up.
Well, what you were just talking about, Johnny, Randy Johnston said that's the Don Garlett's proposal, and it has huge merit. And this is going back several minutes, so I'm not sure what y'all were talking about. But Rob McCabe said in 1987, the U.S. All Pro Funny Car Championships. I remember the story in Raceway News that a faulty photo cell tripped the numbers. And he said he wrote that in your 87 entry, Johnny.
Oh, okay. So that 535, 270, is that what he's talking? So Rob, just to let you know, Johnny, Rob is a new team member who's helping me keep the drag racing list and going back through all the old magazines and all the internet and taking a look at all of our info to make sure we have it right. But
Okay.
Yeah.
I sure do appreciate him. But
And I don't know what they were talking about, but Randy Johnston said it's the same with Englishtown and Sacramento. Just parking cars at Englishtown and trucks on Sacramento was such a waste. And
yeah,
Rob answered that, and he said, insurance, auto auctions, 15 years, $75 million. They got basically the top end, etc. And RP was left with
Raceway
uh,
Park.
with up to the end of the stadium seats.
Right. So basically talking
Yeah.
about what they're doing with those two tracks. So I appreciate those guys. Thanks.
Okay, cool. And Rob said, meanwhile, Phoenix literally lives up to the name. Every time you think it's dead, it always rises up. And Randy Johnson said, of course, it's the flight of the Phoenix.
There you go.
So Rob McCabe just said, he said Maple Grove this weekend, however, might slash records as well. He
Yeah.
said, I know Brian Lonis was hyping it on Facebook and just asked, how do you feel about the IHRA jumping back into Nitro racing?
Well, that's a great story because I was actually going to ask that next, Johnny. So there's a shot. Yeah, Maple Grove's going to fly, and there's the flight of the Phoenix. So it made me think of Chris Lane, one of your old friends there
Yeah.
from the area. But what do you think about the International Hot Rod Association, where they're kind of giving some of the guys a place to race that maybe not have the money to keep up in the NHRA, at least for now. I understand they got a bunch of money and they're trying to grow.
Yeah. Well, I see that the crowds are showing up pretty good for the Friday and Saturday qualifying. Sundays, they've really been at a disadvantage because of weather. So I'm sure the crowd's been down. But the guy that's behind all this, more power to him. I think there's not a non-independent car, or there's an independent car out there that wants to race. This guy will help do anything he can to help bring him in. Even guys like Terry Haddock, this is a perfect venue for everybody to go to. And the big show cars that race with major sponsorship, the Caps, Toyotas, all the Force cars, they already race 23 times a year. They don't need
Yeah,
to go to any more races to
right.
keep their sponsor happy. So it's given the independent cars or even the lower budgeted car a little bit of a venue to go to and race and still have true funny car racing.
Right. I just love it because I've always been an IHRA, AHRA, ADRA kind of fan, right? I mean, I want to go to a race where I don't know who's going to show up and come in the pits and surprise me. And maybe there's some Chevy powered cars, and maybe there's some guys that, you go up to Spokane, hell, they'll line up a fuel altered versus a top fueler versus a front engine top fueler, to get to
Right.
show me. I find
Yeah.
that I just love that kind of racing.
Yeah. And you could anything goes there with IHRA. I give the promoter there, the guy that's paying the bills, more power to him. And if he had something to do with fuel altereds, we'd probably be there in a second.
Oh, yeah. Everybody, I know that over the years, you always hear that there's the hardcore fans who want to see the Phil Altereds and wonder why we can't see them at the national events. And now and then we could, but that's, we have to drop them a note. Maybe they'll, maybe they'll set up a series, you know.
Yeah,
Oh my
we'd love it.
goodness.
It'd give us good reason to house the car out of the Midwest,
Hmm.
or even maybe rent space there in Indy to house the car. Indy's so easy to get in and out of. flight
Right.
wise, it wouldn't be a big deal. It's just getting all your people there. Luckily, we can run the car with just a very limited amount of people. And then, something like that, that's viable, especially for next year.
Right. Well, it's really exciting. I know that wasn't it somewhere recently they lined up a fuel altered against a top fuel car? I don't know if it was at one of the iTray races, but somewhere. And I can't recall, but it took me back to the days when, a minute or two when NHRA was letting fuel altereds qualify with top fuel. And I think Langston actually
Yeah.
qualified one year at the World Finals with
Okay.
that
Yeah.
candy apple red streamlining.
And that car's still in existence too. I've seen he still has it. So
Wow. Pretty amazing. Well, it's getting super late there. We'll give you just a couple of final shout outs here. Is there anybody you want to say hello to or thank sponsors or the folks who helped you out while we have you on the line?
well, it's just, with Winevsky, he's staying involved in Funny Car, which helps keeps us going. We
Hmm.
just got so much stuff going on back there in Arizona. That we're staying plenty busy. The altered itself, that just started out as being a, a byproduct of some hobby time. But we're having a lot of fun doing that, so just the funny car racing out here in London, you couldn't ask for a better life right now than that.
Well, life is good. You're still a young man. For some reason, I guess when you're a kid, to me, I'm a kid in the teens, I'm reading the mags, and I'm like, to me, everybody's like an adult, but you're only like not 5 years older than me. You're 4 years old. I mean, I can't, it's hard for me to spin my head around that. I guess as long as Jagger's walking around over there, I guess we're all still young.
Yeah. Well, you don't see any of the musicians just walking around through Abbey Hill or whatever,
Yeah.
Abbey Road.
Oh my goodness. Well, it's so great. And Johnny, where can folks find you on the internet if they want to follow along? I know that there's that Facebook group for the Six Flat and the couple of other altered groups. Is that where you hang out, or do you have a place of your own?
Well, not really. Just the Wesco Fab uh, website that we use to sell all of our parts with. Other than that, the social media, the Facebook stuff, don't really get too involved on getting on conversations with that.
Gotcha. Well, we can talk about you up there, and then that's the way we'll do that. And
Yeah.
like I say, you're featured today with a beautiful shot of your car by Jeff Thomas. Well, tell us just a couple minutes about Wesco Fab, though. What if folks wanted to have you help them or buy some parts? What kind of where would they? What do you do, and how can they reach you?
They can actually Google Wesco Fabrication, and that'll probably be one of the first couple ones that comes up on Google. Uh, and on that, it gives you all the information of pretty much anything that we manufacture, but they can call me direct through that. It has the phone number listed on that. I'm fine with them calling if there's something that like my wife says, he seems to be the answer man on any of these questions. So there's a lot of time you got to spend on the phone talking to somebody that wants to do something, develop it or make it. I feel free for them to call anytime because that's part of the business is to be able to talk to them like that.
You bet. Sounds great. And sir, I have one final question because I'm the numbers guy. So even if you did break out, what's the best times for your new altered? Have you hit the fives at 251 or something, or where are you?
Yeah, a couple of times we had during the national event out in Phoenix. I was going to say out here in Phoenix for the national event. NHRA asked us and the Nitro Moose to make a couple of runs. One run Saturday and then one run Sunday. Well, we were going to run right after the funny car class, so it would all be respective, and they could see what a short wheelbase car does in respect with the funny cars.
Right.
Well, they said they were going to set the clocks up and leave them set up for 1,000 foot ET so that they'd have something to correlate to funny car. Well, I'm running the car down through there and I shut it off at 1,000 foot. And then they give me the quarter mile ET, which made it look like a bad ET, a it was like a 650 type of an ET. And
Right.
I thought, well, that ain't fair, you guys. You told me you're going to shut the clocks off at 1,000 foot, not a quarter mile. So it made me look kind of bad. And I thought, okay, tomorrow I'm running out the back door, both back doors. I'm going to run it and see what this thing will do, whether you guys like it or not. And it ran a low 5 second run at 253 or something like that. And the guys were watching this thing from half track on the motorhome side. They said the front end was still up in the air at 400 foot. And he
Wow.
said this thing is just so much fun to watch. But we ran a mid 5 second race there, a run, and that's about the end of it right there. I just couldn't. It's not going to go any quicker than that. It
Yeah.
runs out of poop by then.
Well, that's plenty of poop to have. Well, Johnny West, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and especially now it's like nearly 2 a.m. where you are in London. But thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your visit there, and finish up that wine, grab some sleep, and go hit the town.
Yeah, we're going to go do the tourist stuff again tomorrow, so we're in.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Johnny West, all the way from London tonight. And we'll see him back in the States pretty soon. Adios, sir. Have a great night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. And it's so kind to have Johnny join us. John, I'm going to turn it over to you for this week's JB's Take and the Racer of the Week. And I'm going to be out of here myself for a couple of minutes. Bye.
Thanks, Bill. My pick for Racer of the Week is Dan Parker from Columbus, Georgia. Dan was recommended to me by our producer, Kay Thurkelson. Thanks, Kay. It's an honor to feature Dan tonight. With his never quit attitude, Dan Parker set the Guinness World Record for fastest car driven blindfolded. I think I'm getting some feedback, am I? No, I guess I'm cool. Car driven blindfolded at 211 miles per hour and became the fastest blind man on Earth. While sharing his extreme highs and lows, Dan inspires everyone they can be a victor, not a victim. You can make excuses or you can make it happen. Dan Parker is more than just the world's fastest blind race car driver. He's a testament to human resilience and the power of possibility. After losing his sight in a racing accident, Dan refused to let his dreams be sidelined. He defied limitations, pioneering a custom audio guidance system and returning to the racetrack, eventually claiming the Guinness World Record title at a blistering 211 miles an hour. Dan's story isn't about speed. It's about defying expectations and redefining what's possible. He ignites audiences with his passion, humor, and unwavering determination, inspiring them to overcome their own obstacles and chase their dreams, no matter how audacious they may seem. As a motivational speaker, Dan's impact transcends the racetrack, leaving audiences empowered, motivated, and ready to take on the world. I'm not a blind man trying to race. I'm a racer who went blind, is what Dan said. Dan races with no human assistance. He uses a custom guidance system that guides him audible feedback on how to correct his course and to help fund his mission. He custom makes ink pens by hand and machines the entire pen from start to finish. Dan was born into a racing family on July 2nd, 1970 in Salem, Alabama. His father, Jimmy Parker, still races today. Dan was 8 years old when Dad entered him into a mini bike class at an all-motorcycle event, and he placed second. In 1997, Dan started driving pro mods for Ellis Milner. He has won one Dixie Pro Stock Championship as well as the 2005 ADRL Pro Nitrous World Championship title. He was also in the first side-by-side 3-second Pro Nitrous pass. Racing was Dan's life, and he never imagined it would be taken from him. In 2012, Dan was involved in a horrific wreck. It was a miracle that he survived the accident at all, but he was rendered completely blind as a result. He was determined to continue life as usual and to keep racing, so he made a plan. He built a motorcycle and became the first ever blind man to race at the Bonneville Salt Flats in 2013, and then set his class record in 2014 with no exemptions for blindness. In 2015, Dan built a 2008 C6 Chevrolet Corvette in hopes of becoming the world's fastest blind driver. It took years of hard work and perseverance, but exactly 10 years to the day after the violent accident where he lost his sight, Dan achieved that goal. On March 31st, 2022, while racing on the Spaceport America runway in New Mexico, Dan clocked a top speed of 212 miles an hour and officially became the world's fastest blind driver with a Guinness World Record average speed of 211.043 miles per hour. TheBlindMachinist.com and his charity blindfaith.org, where Dan is working with 2 universities to develop self-driving 3-wheel bikes for the blind. Dan's email is theblindmachinist@gmail.com. Dan Parker, you are an inspiration and an example to us all. You overcame seemingly impossible odds to achieve your goals as a champion racer. We wish you good luck, safe racing, and the best of times in the future. Now, Bill, what I understand is we're not going to have a show on September the 15th, and that kind of works out okay for us because that's my wife Debbie's birthday. So I'll be taking her out to dinner that night and celebrating her lovely life and her lovely personality. So everybody stay safe and well. You are the most important part of this show, and we love you all. It's a great way to spend an hour together on a Monday night. We'll see y'all next time. God bless America. Back to you, Bill.
Thank you, John. Happy birthday to Debbie. And you can, if she's not watching, you can tell her you told Bill, I am not going to do that show, so I can take you out for your birthday dinner. So actually, all the best to her, and a lovely person I've been glad to know and to meet and to be in your lovely home. But back to Dan. Oh my goodness, Mr. Parker, what an amazing story, and so inspirational. And he's actually on the drag lists because we track Southern Outlaw Pro Mods and the Dixie Pro Stock Association, which
That's
really
right.
were frankly pro mods, you know. But they were awesome, and he's on there, and of course racing against Jason Scruggs and all the other great and Ellis Milner and all the great names from down south there. And so inspirational to see him take his passion and continue going. That's just amazing.
Well, I really appreciated Kay recommending Dan to me because I didn't know about him until she told me. And once I got to know him, he's a fantastic person. He's just like anybody else. I mean, he's just a great guy. And but the things that he's done to overcome the obstacles in his way were an inspiration to me personally, as well as to everybody that ever comes into contact with him. He's a fantastic person.
He's awesome. Thanks to Kay and thanks to you, John. Appreciate that. Let's um let's go into some of our segments here. We're going to talk about some special events coming up. They are doing a night at the museum at the Eastern Museum of Motor Racing this Thursday, September 11th, 2025. It's going to be they're going to have some heavy hitters joining at the museum right before the Maple Grove National Hot Rod Association NHRA. Let me just say it. Must be time for bed. The National Hot Rod Association. I'm going to say it. The event at Maple Grove Raceway in Reading, Pennsylvania this weekend. But before that, Thursday night at the Eastern Museum of Motor Racing, they're going to have some really heavy hitters in a night at the museum. So some of the NHRA stars will be in town. Check out the EMMR website for more info. Also, way on the other side, back in the middle of Illinois, Sunday, September 14th in Lakin, Illinois, the hometown of Animal Jim Foyer. They're going to have the Dragon Down Memory Lane event. It's going to be a car show right on North Main Street in Lakin, Illinois, Lacon. And it's going to feature special guest Animal Jim Foyer the world champion pro and modified racers. In fact, he's run about 6 championships in one class or another. And of course, our dear, dear great friend for many years. And we get to see AJ up on Facebook, and we maintain his Facebook group for him. But Animal Jim, if you want to meet the man, the legend, he's going to be in Lakin, Illinois on Sunday, this Sunday the 14th, right downtown on North Main Street at the Dragon Down Memory Lane of our event. So cool stuff at EMMR and middle of the country out in Animal Gym land. Upcoming guests, as John noted, next Monday night, I will be at a work event downtown DC, so I won't be having the show. On the 22nd, though, Chico Kodama from Moon Eyes will join us. We had him scheduled a long time ago. Something popped up again with my calendar, I think, and we couldn't get together with Chico then, but we are going to meet with him. The man, the legend on the salt flats and on the drags, the man with the big yellow logo with the two big eyes, the very famous Moon Eyes brand, Chico Kodama, is going to be joining us on September 22nd. On the 29th of September, Dina Paris, the pro modified champion, the spicy meatball, who's an IHRA world champion in pro modified with her amazing Cadillac pro mod car. Dina's going to join us. She is a hoot. She's so much fun. And I look forward to having Dina on the show. On October 6th, Dave Gallegos, the Nitro Clown Nostalgia Funny Car Racer, will be joining us. So that'll be awesome. On the 13th, Steve Macklin, the Fuel Funny Car Racer, also racing alcohol funny cars right now. In fact, Kay went around at Indy and with her camera and her microphone, and a bunch of great racers gave us little shout outs. So she put one up from Steve Macklin just the other day. She's done it from a couple other folks. So there's some more excitement or some more surprises coming your way. So keep your eye on Facebook as Kay puts up these shout outs to the Draglist gang. That's us and you listening to us from these great racers. Steve Macklin coming up on the 13th of September. I'm sorry, October. And then on October 20th, Kai Michelson, the Rocket Man, returns. We've had Kai on the show before. He's, basically salutes it. If it don't salute back, he sticks a rocket motor on it and makes it go fast. I'm talking anything from skateboards to wheelchairs to legitimate, the world's fastest ever car in a quarter mile was recorded by a driver, Kitty O'Neill, driving his car, and everything in between. Kai Michelson, the Rocket Man, on October 20th. And announcing this for the first time on October 27th, Christine Foster, the Top Alcohol Funny Car Racer. Christine will be joining us. That's very exciting. Looking forward to that. And November 3rd, Pete Moriello got us in touch with him. Andy Morocco, who has the street legal drag strip out there in California. We're going to be talking with Andy Morocco on November 3rd. So that means we got the 10th, the 17th, and the 24th of November to fill. I know that John's been working hard on a couple of guests, and Kay has been, and Pete has been, but Kay Turkelson's the person that puts it all together for us, and thank you so much. And so lots and lots of great guests coming up. Going on to those we lost, believe it or not, given that we were off for 2 weeks, I only have one name to report in that time, but it's a huge name. On the 27th of August, we lost legendary Texas Pro Stock racer Willie Frank Mitchum. In his younger years, Willie was a skilled automotive technician, but in 1979, he opened Mitchum's Quality Service Center where he served the community with skill and pride. But from our purposes, where we got to know him in the early 80s, he took his passion even further by joining the NHRA and IHRA in Pro Stock Eliminator. Of course, he was a longtime member of the Texas Pro Stock Association, one of our other great Facebook groups out there, and everybody sent their love and condolences to Willie Frank and his family. Willie, one of the premier black drag racers in the sport. He was a pro stock winner from down Texas way, and you were for racing for Donald Giddings and many other folks. You can find Willie all over the drag list. You can also find him all over the qualifying sheets in NHRA and IHRA Pro Stock. So our condolences to Willie Frank. He just went by Willie Frank mostly, but Willie Frank Mitchum. And he also, by the way, he introduced, supported, and mentored many young drag racing drivers of color, including his own son, Derek. So, Willie Frank, thanks for the memories, sir, and our condolences and love to the family. So, with that, we're close to a wrap. John, any thoughts on the show or anything else you want to discuss?
Well, it was just great having Johnny West with us tonight. You know, he's a legendary drag racer and fuel altereds. As everybody said on the chat board, the fuel altereds are very close to our hearts. It's one of the classic drag racing hot rods that's still out there doing it, and we were proud to have Johnny with us. I mean, he was a tough guy to come on that late and be with us from London tonight. So we really appreciated having Johnny West with us, and I'm looking forward to getting back together here in on the 22nd with Chico Kodama.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that, and Kay's going to update me on our next guests in late October and November and everything. So we'll have graphics for everybody.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it, my friend. Here, it was amazing. 2, 3 graphics a week. How's he do it? He churns them out. Thank you so much. Well, let's do a wrap, folks. We want to thank Johnny West, of course, all the way from London tonight, as John said, late, late, late. But John Backman, of course, my brother, Kay Turkelson, Pete Mariello, Rob McCabe, who was on tonight, David Oakes, and Mel Bashore, Ron Toombs rather, who has been doing some great updates, John Mernon, who's been doing some great updates for us at Draglist, and Jeff Gilder, of course, who got us our start. And thanks in heaven to the man, Danny White. We think about you all the time. By the way, Gina White just had a birthday this last week, and she just celebrated a year with her boyfriend. So congrats to them, our dear friend. Click the like button, the share, and let your friends know that we're out here doing this kind of stuff. And that's even if you're watching the recording, do that as well. You know, you can like it, you can share it, and you can also subscribe. Click the little drag list box right there, and that'll let you subscribe. Please subscribe to our show. We love doing this for you. We'd love to build our community out here on YouTube. Check in at draglist.com every single day to see what we got. We put up daily drag racing news from around the world, and then often some very special things like photos from David Oakes and other things like that, or race reports from Rob McCabe and others. Also, you can find us on the Radio Bob network out on the West Coast, or anywhere really that you can find internet. Look up Radio Bob, and it's literally what it sounds like. But Radio Bob actually puts a drag list on some of his events, and so he's goes out here and grabs our shows and he sticks them on his radio network on the internet. So we're part of that cool deal with a whole bunch of classic rock and other cool network shows. And thanks to Kay for getting us set up with him as well. I don't mention Radio Bob enough, but we have actually been out there with him for several months. And so that's another place for you guys to see our content, which is great. So, folks, have an awesome, awesome week. We'll see you September 22nd for Chico Kodama from Moon Eyes. Until then, on behalf of John and Kay and Rob McCabe and everybody else, my name's Bill. Let's hit the magic button here